everyone, and welcome to
The Movie House.
Today we're going to talk to you about a movie from 1955 known as A Man Called Peter, starring Richard Todd and Jean Peters.
Yes.
Why did we watch this?
The reason we watched this is because I was, at the time, reading Catherine Marshall's book, Christie, which is a classic, and I've been meaning to read it for decades and finally did and enjoyed it very much. And Catherine Marshall was married to Peter Marshall, who was a very famous minister who was the Senate chaplain,
Right.
I believe. And he was a very compelling minister. And this is based on a book she wrote about him after his death. So it's a biography. And so I thought, I've read that book and I thought it was really good, but I've never seen the movie. So let's check it out. And our library did have it. And I was pleasantly surprised that it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know anything about this person or this story. Well, first, when she said we were watching a movie called A Man Called Peter, I thought it was about the Apostle Peter. And then when she said, no, it's about Peter Marshall, I was thinking about the Hollywood Squares guy.
Right.
So I had no idea there was a guy named Peter Marshall who was a famous preacher. So I don't know what that tells you about me, but that's the truth.
Yes, it's a fascinating story. He was born and raised in Scotland, and he came to America, and he loved God. He was very, very passionate, loved God, and people started noticing him. And the story follows Catherine Marshall when she met him, she was in college, and he was older than her. I don't know how much older. And she fell in love with him, and she was helping him. And then he fell in love with her. And it's the story of their marriage. And like I said, he became very, very well known for his preaching. And so it's just really, I thought they did a really great job. Sometimes movies do a good job and sometimes they don't. So I was really glad that they did a good job showing Peter Marshall, who's a real person, who he was and how he was. And it was just fascinating to see a piece of history.
Yeah. Well, and stylistically, the movie is a very 1955 movie. It looks like a 1955 movie. It sounds like one. They act like they're in 1955 because I don't think Brando's new style of acting had taken hold yet. So it's a little bit of that more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stylized?
Maybe, sort of form of acting. Mm-hmm. And then my big issue with the movie is that it's set in the 30s and the 40s, I think, and maybe then later in the 50s. But from start to finish, practically everybody dresses like it's 1955. The cars are from 1955.
Right.
Everything looks 1955. So, and they don't really change things up to give you an idea of time as the movie progresses. His hair might get a little grayer here and there. But other than that, you don't know what year it is at any given point in time in the story. Yeah,
that was very off-putting. Because I was like, knowing when this took place, and it's like, it doesn't look right. It doesn't, so it loses, it takes you out of the story, actually, if you're familiar, that this is not the correct era that they're shooting this.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, I don't either. I read up online, and that was their decision. That was an artistic decision, I guess, on their part, and it doesn't work, in my opinion.
No.
It hurts the film because it is a good story, and it's well acted. Richard Todd is very good, and Jean Peters is very good as his wife. But it does. It takes you out of it, and you're sort of thinking about that rather than engaging with the story a lot of the time, unfortunately.
Right. But overall, I think it was a good movie. And it's kind of sad. Peter Marshall was a very well-known and respected minister. And like I said, he spent his last, I don't know if it was 10, and he was young to be called up to be the chaplain for the Senate.
United States Senate, yeah.
Yeah, so that was huge, and probably hardly anybody knows about him.
Yeah.
So that's really sad. And I've read some of his, he he was Scottish, and so he had a Scottish, the bar going on, and he wrote out his sermons, and they were beautifully written. I mean, the way he wrote them was beautiful, and he wasn't allowed to do that, I believe, for the Senate. He had to do prayers off the top of his head, and that was very difficult for him, but God graced him to be able to do it. But he was from what I remember, he was very nervous about that, about not having everything written out. But apparently he did a really good job, and he was a great influence on the Capitol Hill, because and it's a shame, his life ended shortly, and it shouldn't have. It's a cautionary story to everybody. You got to take time to rest and take care of yourself, or your life will be cut short.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, and if you think about it, he could relatively still be with us, but possibly.
Okay. Well, that's it for us. Check out A Man Called Peter. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.